it was great work in fundraising, and it was a part-time position. I knew I couldn't stay there forever. And actually, while I was working at Goucher, I was also interning with an organization I was interested in working for called the Rosen Group. And I will get to that in a minute because I ended up taking a full-time position with them. And as an intern, I focused mainly on some of their magazine-related programs. They had an arts magazine. They also have several other facets to their company. And I started there in 2010 after a year at Goucher. So we'll go down to this picture here. So the Rosen Group is actually a wholesale show for arts and crafts professionals who are selling in bulk to stores like Anthropology or little Main Street shops that carry handmade goods. It's the largest show in the country that wholesales crafts like that. We had about 1,200 artists I worked with. My job was actually in PR and marketing, as well as program management. So I ran their nonprofit. Even though the company was a for-profit, they had a nonprofit arm that did business development courses for artists who were just getting started, giving them some basic business skills so they could start a business. I also worked with their advocacy group, which, just to give you an example of some of the things I did there, we worked with Native American populations and tried to get them represented in gift shops across the country where made in China goods were being sold as real Native American art. I worked with the Zuni tribes on that. There are several other proposals that went forth. I worked on a conference called Craft in America that was done in collaboration with the Smithsonian, a couple other things like that. It was really great opportunities. And again, this was a for-profit company that I was working for, but it was a small business, so it ran very much like a nonprofit. It was more how they filed their taxes that they were considered a for-profit, plus the shows made money and were designed to do so, but they were at the same time enabling artists to have a career. Now, in 2012, I had wanted to move to Chicago for a very long time since I graduated college, and I decided it was time just to make a leap. I told my boss about 8 months ahead of time I was going to move at the end of my lease, and I looked for comparable jobs in the city of Chicago, one being with the organization I currently work with, which is the Merchandise Mart, pictured here. Oops. There's my mouse. The Merchandise Mart is actually the second biggest commercial building in the world, second to the Dubai airport. It's a design center as well as it's a commercial office building. So we have things like Google in here, but we also have multiple floors of showrooms, showrooms that feature furniture, art, clothing, that sort of thing, and stores come in here and merchandise through the Merchandise Mart. We also have 2 trade show floors, and I actually work on the only retail show here. It's called One of a Kind Show, and I work with designers and artists and craft artists of all types. Just to give you an idea, we have a partnership with Etsy, so anywhere from, you know, $50 pieces of jewelry to $100,000 pieces of furniture that took a year to make. And we are the largest retail show in the country. I work with approximately 650 artists right now. And again, I came across this job because a lot of my clients at my old position actually participated in this show. And here, just on the right, you have an example of what a booth in our show looks like, and you know, the type of art that might be featured here. So I'll move on. I just also want to say, in addition to this, I also worked with several nonprofits, both in Baltimore and Chicago, anywhere from museums to dance companies, doing front of house work, also helping a couple of startup nonprofits here. I did volunteer work in Chicago with youth teaching art courses. So I made sure all along the road here to get involved with as much as I could outside of work. Currently, I serve on the board for Foundations of Music, which is a nonprofit for after-school music programs in underfunded public schools, and in particular, work with at-risk youth doing jazz programs. So, move on here. I assume why you're taking this webinar right now is because you received an education, or receiving an education, I should say, that focuses on nonprofit management or social activism. That's a lot of Goucher. You're probably graduating with some sense of the world, hopefully so, and want to make a difference. You want to save the world. I know I did. It's one of the reasons I went into arts administration. I believe strongly in the power of community and community arts. And again, that's very much focused on nonprofits, but I want to first cover reasons you might want to look into working for a for-profit as well as a nonprofit. So reasons to expand your job search beyond nonprofits, social service organizations, advocacy groups, also foundations, things that you might typically look for with a degree such as the one you're receiving at Goucher, received at Goucher. Or you may want to find a way to leverage what you learned for a job in the for-profit world you've already identified that you want. So I'm going to go into both of those topics today here. So reasons to consider working for a nonprofit. It's expanded career opportunities. You're not limiting yourself to just certain fields that you think match up with your degree and your skill set. You can learn hardline business skills, which, by the way, are extremely valuable to nonprofits. Everything has to run with some sensibility and some sense of structure. So a lot of what you might learn in a corporate world would be applicable to a nonprofit world. It exposes you to business language you might not be exposed to otherwise, which is very important when you're dealing with people on all levels. Even working in a nonprofit, you're going to have to work with outsiders, for-profit businesses, and it's good to know the lingo. It makes you seem more professional. Also, it'll diversify your resume. Perhaps money is an issue. Nonprofits, you do tend to get paid less. I should say this isn't the main driving factor for a lot of you, I assume, but it is something to consider depending on where you are in your life. Exposure to new industries. Also, you may find a for-profit company where you believe in their mission. You may find your dream job at a for-profit company. And more importantly, you might be limiting yourself if you're just looking for jobs in the nonprofit industry. So finding purpose in a for-profit. Again, if you are focused on social activism, arts administration, anything like that in your undergrad degree or have graduated with a degree in that, you might be thinking, well, corporate jobs are soul-sucking, for-profits are soul-sucking. Just keep in mind, bureaucracy can be found in any type of organization. It shouldn't scare you away from opportunities in the for-profit sector. It would be very limiting if you were trying to find a job without bureaucracy, because quite frankly, there's a little bit of it everywhere. Another thing to consider is conscious consumerism and share culture. They're central themes of the new economy and the new job market. And for-profits are becoming increasingly aware of social conscious behaviors. Quite frankly, it's beneficial to them to do so. And what I mean by conscious consumerism is being aware of what you're consuming, whether it's a software program, a product you're buying, an organization that runs events in your community. It's just being aware of where that product comes from, the sourcing, the ethics behind it. Ethically sourced would be another word here that you could use. And then shared culture being something like Uber or Airbnb, which you're familiar with, and this whole idea of sharing ideas and actually sharing things. And both are very socially conscious behaviors, and a lot of for-profits are focused on that. So you might be able to find a lot of meaning looking at the for-profit world. There are many ways to have reach. Sometimes you can actually have a greater reach in a hands-on role in a for-profit as opposed to an administrative job in a nonprofit, which is actually what I found in my job search. My first job opportunity that came up with the Rosen Group working for the art wholesale show that I started out in. I actually had another job opportunity at the same time working for a medical nonprofit that did fundraising for multiple sclerosis. But I would have been doing simple administrative work for a nationwide nonprofit. It would have been very hands-off, and it would have been a lot less learning. I had a lot less learning opportunities there. And I'm not saying that that's not good. If you wanted to work yourself up in a medical nonprofit, that might be a great start. But I ended up opting to work for a for-profit because I knew that I would be getting more hands-on experience working in so many different roles and learning a lot of different skills that would be beneficial in any job sector. And then also, even if you don't feel you have reach in a for-profit that you're working for, maybe potentially working for, you could be learning valuable skills that will help you be more successful in a future nonprofit role. And that's going back to, hardline business skills that are able to be applied to a nonprofit and might be very, very valuable to them. So you have a goal, but there are many ways of getting there. Remember to ask yourself, what do I want out of my job or a potential job? Do you want to hone a skill or rise up in an organization? And like I said, if you wanted to work in a medical nonprofit, then maybe starting in an administrative role would be great. But it's really what you want for now. In your organization, is that where you want to rise, or do you want to try to get as much exposure to different sorts of skills in the job world? Things you want to consider: evaluate what you will learn where you are, who you will meet, which I can't stress more. And honestly, everything's about who you meet. Networking is a whole nother webinar I could teach, but I just will emphasize that implicitly, and also what you can observe. And so that's different from what you will learn in the way that you might not know what your boss or how your boss does what she or he does, but you want to know that they do it. So just being aware of how an organization functions can be a really great thing that you get out of a job, even if it's not the job you want. I wanted to take an example from my life of a friend of mine who actually got her master's in arts administration, and she's worked in for-profits her entire career and has had some amazing opportunities to have reach in the community. And I just wanted to use this as an example for a type of job beyond the job that I have, where, you know, working in a for-profit doesn't necessarily mean that you're limiting your reach. She started her career in radio, working for a major radio station up here in Chicago called XRT. And her job was technically in sales, but what she did, she worked with local chamber of commerces to organize festivals in the community and festival promotion. And she also worked a small business to get advertising for them on the radio. So it was a lot of one-on-one work with local organizations, chamber of commerces, organizing music festivals, small-scale music festivals around the city. She actually left that job recently, and she's now managing special events for 2 mid-sized concert venues in Chicago, Lincoln Hall and Schubas. Again, these are for-profit businesses, but most of the events are multifaceted. They support local businesses and charities. So really, she's had great opportunity there to get involved with her community in a very hands-on role. She also serves as the president of the Associate Board for Foundations of Music, which I'm also on. I actually knew her predating that. That's how I was asked to be on the board. But with her job, it allows her great resources like event space and audiences for the nonprofit for which she works. And you know, it's invaluable to be able to provide that to a nonprofit that you're volunteering with in the community. And again, this is just one of the things that she gets out of her job, even though it's a for-profit. And as you probably know if you've taken nonprofit courses at Goucher, their doers and donors. Our associate board is very much a doing board. Since we're all younger, the major board is people from the community who are wealthier and tend to give more in resources in the way of money as opposed to time. So, so this is great. I just wanted to jump right into the next part of the webinar here, which is how to market yourself and your skills to a for-profit company. So let's say you want to start considering working for a for-profit or expand your job search, or maybe you've already identified a job you want in the for-profit industry and you have this nonprofit skill set either from school or past jobs, and you want to figure out how you can translate that into this next career opportunity. So there's a few steps here. First, evaluate the training you received through your education. Identify your transferable skills, make your past experience relatable, gain experience in niche industries or hone niche skills, and research both the organization and the job you're applying for. So I'll go into each one of these here. I'll start with evaluate the training you received through your education, Goucher. So here I have, I'm going to show you 2 course descriptions from actual Goucher classes. These are current. I pulled them off the website last week. Now here we have a business class, 300 levels, so it's advanced. And if you just take a look at that, what you're studying is basically human behavior and how you capitalize on it, and being intuitive and analyzing human decision making so you can better be a business person. So this is an actual course. So let's just jump to the next course I have here, which is an anthropology class. It's something you might take if you're interested in social activism, if you're interested in arts administration. It's a basic 101 course, and here it is covering a lot of topics that you see in your 300-level business course. You know, how does societies act, why do they act the way they do, basically analyzing people. So with your liberal arts degree, you're getting an amazing background in business with any class you take, because business is intuitive, and a lot of these, you know, for-profit companies, they may be looking for skills that you got from your courses, and you know, don't think that just because you studied something specific that it's limiting. Having a liberal arts degree is the most all-encompassing degree you can have. So I can't stress enough to remember what classes you took and save your course catalogs. I don't know if they print them anymore. They might just be online, but keep a record of what classes you took. You can pull language from your course descriptions, both for cover letters and resumes. And it's professional language. You can back it up with the courses you took. This is especially great if you're a graduating student and you're relying so heavily on the courses you took as what is building your resume since you don't have work experience yet. So it's really great to do that. As you get further out in the work world, I don't reference my classes anymore. I'm years out and I have enough experience under my belt. I have about 6 years, and I don't need to do that anymore. But just if you're getting started, it's an exceptional thing to do. A little game, pull up a job description for a potential job or your dream job. Match each job requirement to a course you took, and you definitely will be able to do that. Even if it's stretching a little bit, like I said, your liberal arts degree gives you so many skills that you don't even realize you're honing. So you just want to evaluate that properly. Next, gain experience in niche industries or hone niche skills. I just wanted to sort of explain that here as opposed to bullet points. In my case, I work in the art and design industry and looked for jobs that would identify my industry knowledge as an asset. That's how I was able to get a job before I moved to Chicago, or actually I had the interview the day I came up. My company knew what I did. They knew who I worked with, and it was a logical transition. You don't have to be so broad when trying to bring this element to your resume. Maybe it's something as simple as you attended an event where the organization you're considering working for was represented. So maybe it's a conference where the company you're applying to was at, and you happen to be out in some other role. It shows your understanding of the company, not just the job. If you don't have a way to do this, find one. It's really important that you understand not just a specific administrative task you're doing at any job, but also what the company stands for as a whole. Every company does have a mission of some sort, and having this comprehensive knowledge will help you rise up in that company and gain respect among your peers and people who are above you. Make your past experience relatable. Alter your past job volunteer experience descriptions on your resume according to a company's language and reference specific skills or organizations that the company may be aware of. So an example of these types of references, what database did you use in your past job? Is that the same as the job you're applying for? A lot of nonprofits use something like FileMaker or EBMS, these standard databases, and they might be something you used in a for-profit, or maybe you're a student worker at Goucher and you use a database there. You probably do, because I did. These are things that are skill sets. It cuts down on job training and it makes you a more desirable candidate. So those are things that are completely transferable between nonprofit, for-profit industries. Is the organization you work or worked for well respected or known in the community? Goucher is certainly well respected in the Baltimore community too if you don't have work experience yet, if you're still a student. And play that up. Play up Goucher, play up anything that you think will help a company, a potential employer, understand where you came from. And does anyone you work or worked with or any professor you learned from have ties to the organization you're applying to? That's another thing that you have to consider. I mean, you might not be close to the person that worked at the potential organization you're applying to and who now works with you or you now know, but even just showing that, hey, somebody from that company works at the company I'm with now, or I've learned from them, shows a sort of a connection between the two organizations. So creating that, even if it's very loose ties, it just helps a potential employer understand who you are. So getting into the transferable skills, identifying transferable skills. There's some real basic ones that transfer between nonprofit into for-profit industries. Fundraising, that's the same thing as sales. I mean, some sales is cold calling, it's hard sales. I technically work in a sales role for part of my job, but I don't do hard sales. I just have conversations with people. I mentor them on their businesses. It's people building, it's relationship building. So fundraising and sales are directly transferable. It's something you can play up if those are roles you're applying for, and obviously a lot of nonprofit roles are in development, and there's plenty of sales jobs out there in the world that are interested and go way beyond just making cold calls. Event management and donor relations, customer service. You're managing people, you're managing things. Volunteer management, managing interns. Are you in a role currently where you have interns working below you? You probably are if you're in the job world. Most places do have interns, and that's volunteer management, which again is a role that is available in a lot of nonprofits, and you might be working in that now, or you might want to get into it later. So managing interns would be a great experience to gain in a for-profit industry to jump back into the nonprofit world later. And then, of course, essential for all jobs is marketing and PR. Administrative tasks, operations, social media, which of course is the skill set of the future. It's what a lot of young alums and millennials are working in now. Writing a great email, I can't stress enough that customer service experience that you gain from dealing with people via email, learning how to write a cohesive and clear email. It's important anyway, and data management. Forgive me for 1 second. I'm going to look at my phone. I keep on getting buzzes. I just want to make sure it's not related to the PowerPoint as I'm calling in here. Looks like I'm okay, so I will keep on going. And then this really goes for anything you do. Research both the organization and job you're applying for. How is the organization run? What is important to the organization? What is most valued? Do they know who you are, or will they understand what you have done? What verbiage do they use in the job description? You should mirror it. Analyze what you'll be doing on a daily basis and play up matching skills on your resume. The nonprofit sector, it's such an all-encompassing industry, because basically what it is, it's business. Nonprofit world is business, but you also have to know, things like grant writing. You have to be socially conscious. So really what you have with any sort of social activism, socially aware degree or a nonprofit degree is a business degree and some. You have the people skills and the knowledge of the world on top of the business skills you need for any for-profit job. You just need to dig into that more, because it really is just amplifying you as a candidate. And just go in there and don't think that because you're trained to work for passion, not for money, that you can apply for a job, because when it comes down to it and boils down to it, your skills probably match. Some for-profit industries to explore for the nonprofit-minded. I just wanted to put this in here as a few ways that you might be able to start thinking outside of the box here for some potential opportunities if you've limited yourself to nonprofits, or if you're in a nonprofit and want to jump into a for-profit world. Hospitals and healthcare, I have several friends who work as social workers in hospitals. There's a lot of community programs in these sorts of organizations. They might be run like a for-profit. Obviously, there are nonprofit hospitals and healthcare systems too, but there are a lot of hands-on roles here. There's a lot of ways to be involved with your community, working with homeless populations, mentally ill populations, depending on what you want to focus on. But it's a great place to start exploring in the for-profit world, where you might have a sort of nonprofit mindset in your daily basis. Insurance, again, you're working with populations. I have a friend, minority populations, poor populations. I have a friend who works with an insurance company, and he does translations for Spanish-speaking populations and low-income populations, and really tries to get them affordable insurance and find programs for them that help subsidize their insurance. So it's really great, again, a social-minded project that's with a for-profit. Sales, like I said, I technically work in sales, but it's not at all what I do on a daily basis. I manage artists. I put on a trade show, or excuse me, a retail show. I have tremendous opportunity to work with people and help them develop their businesses and help them get started with their careers as an artist. We support our community around me, since a lot of them are local. So just take a look at that. I mean, again, Nikki, the example I used in special event management, she's still technically working sales for these two venues that she manages the special events for, but a lot of the events are with nonprofits, so she's working closely with them to get them the best exposure, the best audiences they can get. Government jobs might be sort of obvious, but there's a lot in cultural affairs departments of cities. There's jobs with the government like the NEA, National Endowment for the Arts. These are sort of idealistic jobs, I guess, but take a look at the local government that's around you, or community organizations like Chamber of Commerce's, because those are organizations that are working directly with the community. Even though they're not a nonprofit, they have a very socially minded perspective and mission. Hospitality, working for a hotel, you might get to manage a venue space. There's a lot of different venues that fall under the hospitality category, where you might get to work with charities or community organizations. Construction, I say this because of urban planning. One of the things that I'm interested in getting involved with actually personally is urban planning in the city of Chicago, and taking vacant buildings and turning them into artist facilities. There's a couple organizations that I'm going to come involved with in the next few months here as far as documenting vacant houses. Urban planning, there's a lot of potential, again, for working with your community and really having social impact in a profound way. Higher education, I started there. It was a great foundation for me for everything that I did. Higher education is technically a nonprofit. Some higher education organizations are for-profits, but it's not what you might typically think of when you're thinking of socially minded or nonprofit organizations. I know on a local level, we have an art college here in Chicago, and they do so much arts outreach. They have all sorts of positions all the time open with community art partnerships, public art partnerships, that sort of thing. So there's so many multifaceted roles in working with the higher education institution, and it's definitely worth exploring. And then event planning companies. Lots of times, again, you'll be working with businesses in your community. You might be doing charity events. There's all sorts of things you can do in event planning that are related to nonprofits or a nonprofit mindset. And I just wanted to end here before we get into questions with some things I get to do on a daily basis. So I work for a for-profit company. I actually work in the most corporate environment I've worked with since I've been a professional adult. However, I have such a hands-on role. There's only 2 people that work on the show, myself and one other person. And my role is really first line of defense here. I work with artists, I field calls, I go out to art shows and I find artists, I go to community events, I find artists who might be wanting to step up their business and really take it to the next level in exposure. My show, like I said, has 650 artists, but we get about 72,000 attendees who pay to come in, and some of our artists make upwards of $50,000 at a show. So it can really be a huge impact on your career if you are successful at a show like this. Now, of course, not everyone is, but it's a lot of opportunity there. So I work a lot with small business development and mentorship. A lot of these people are artist mindsets. They're not necessarily of the business mind, and I get to help them with merchandising, help them focus on their price points and what would sell best, update them with industry trends, help them with their aesthetics, help them market themselves to their community, help them pick other shows that they might want to do to make it a more fleshed out show year for them. All sorts of things that I get to do on a daily basis. And I also get to work with community nonprofits as well in my current role. A portion of our ticket sales goes to Worry Children's Hospital. I also have several nonprofits in the show I work with, like After School Matters, which is after-school arts programs. I work with Marlin, which is another sort of after-school program. And for the new show that we're working on a spring show currently. I'm working on getting involved with several nonprofit farmers markets that work on sustainability and urban farming, and these farmers markets also provide or accept food stamps, so it encourages nutritional programming in disadvantaged communities and food deserts, and it's really interesting community organizations that I get to be involved with because of what I do. I also get to encourage sustainable resources. A lot of the artists I work with are very focused on that. I work with food purveyors as well, so I'll use this as an example. One of the food purveyors in the show does high-end maple syrup. $50 a bottle. Takes them weeks to make 1 bottle of this maple syrup, or 1 batch rather, and he has managed to preserve forests in his community in Indiana from farming maple syrup. He's gotten grants. He's managed to save this community that would otherwise be developed for industrial work by creating an industry there. So that's great. We also have people who upcycle and are so focused on repurposing and encouraging other people to repurpose and to look at things in a different way, to stop making more things and start using what you have. I mentioned supporting urban farming. Now that I'm starting to get involved more with local farmers markets and food nonprofits, as well as I get to create arts awareness by creating this event that 70,000 plus people attend every year. It's really great to be able to expose such a huge sector of the population to all sorts of different forms of art that they might not otherwise be exposed to. I just included a link at the end here to what I do, which is One of a Kind Show Chicago. We're actually launching our new website today, so forgive me if there are kinks in it. It'll be going live in about an hour or two. We're rebranding, but if you just wanted to explore a little bit about what I do, feel free to reach out to me and ask me questions about it. It's sort of a weird thing to explain, and you know, you might have a few questions after this is over. I just wanted to end with, figure out what you want to do on a daily basis. Figure out what on a daily basis makes you happy, and try to find a job where you do that every day. And for some people, that might be working toward a greater mission. It might be doing administrative work, working on Excel sheets for a nonprofit where you are trying to help with fundraising, and that might be what you want. Other people might want to have a daily task set that's more related to hands-on work. Maybe you want to work with children, things like that. So figure out what it is you want to do. I mean, when you graduate from Goucher and you have this nonprofit, this socially minded mindset, you want to go out and you want to help, but figure out exactly how you want to help and what makes you happy too. And there's lots of roles on either end of that. So I'll just end there, and then I'll open up to questions. Casey, I'll let you take it.
Thanks for a great presentation, Erin. So yeah, like Erin said, are there any questions? If you have an audio connection, you can feel free to just speak up or jump in, or you can use the chat function, either way.
Well, it looks like Janice is speaking, but I can't hear her. Would it be possible to type the questions? I'm not sure why it's not coming through here. Casey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, so
I'm
Janice,
not hearing these questions. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Janice said, thanks so much for the great info, and I enjoyed the webinar. So thanks very much, Janice, for joining. Any other questions?
Well, can you hear me, Erin?
Oh, I can. Try. Speak a little louder, though.
Okay, sure. Erin, it's Allison Lohr. How are you?
Hi, nice to hear from you.
Nice to hear from you. So congrats. I'm not sure who's in the group, but I don't know if there's any of my former students, but I'm Allison Lohr, and I program direct the arts administration concentration at Goucher. And I was so excited when I heard that Erin was giving this talk today. So I just wanted to say that I listened to every word, and it's just I'm just really thrilled to be sitting here and having you sort of relate your experiences, you know, in a very relatable way, very practical, very inspiring. I'm just thrilled to, you know, to hear about the experience, the depth and breadth of your experiences that you've had over the years. So I'm just really happy to hear that. I did have one quick question, and that is, actually who was the friend in Chicago who was also arts admin? I couldn't think of who that could be.
Oh,
that you related
she received her. Yeah, she received her master's in arts administration. She did not go to Goucher.
Okay.
She received it from a school, actually Columbia University here in Chicago.
Okay.
So I was just using her as an example. Nikki Hartel is her name.
Okay, I was racking my brain thinking who it could be, and I couldn't think of who it was. The other thing I wanted to.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I wanted to just sort of comment, and that I love that you're now sitting on a nonprofit board, a board of trustees, a board of directors, and I wanted to see if you could take just a couple of minutes to talk about the skill, because I think that is just a tremendous experience for a couple of reasons. One for you know, for if you've never worked in if you haven't worked in a nonprofit and you feel sort of a little bit of guilt or remorse because you now have a for-profit job, just because you've sort of gone to the other side, as you said, it doesn't mean that you have to give up your aspirations to sort of do good in the world, and that having your developed skills in in business management or whatever for-profit field or corporate field that you have is so valuable. Plus, you have again the nonprofit heart, as you said. So it's just a tremendous opportunity for anyone. And also, if you've ever worked in nonprofits anyway, sitting on a board on the other side is incredibly valuable, and I highly recommend it for any young professional. Once you get to the point where you're able to sit on a board because you have enough experience to relate. So I just wanted to see if you had anything to contribute or to add to that about that, Erin.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And first off, I would like to start by telling everyone, Allison has been a great asset to me. I met with her several times after I graduated, and I can't stress enough how important your professors are. That's the best thing you can get out of Goucher, is this small class size where you really get to communicate with someone as a friend and a human being, not as somebody that's distant in front of a room lecturing at you. So thank you, Allison, for that. And
my pleasure.
Again, it's just no, I can't stress enough to all of you how important it is to talk to your professors, because I'm just going to use one example here. I remember I sent you an email once, Allison, and I think I said, hey, or I ended with something very silly and unprofessional, and you responded to my question and said, hey, maybe you don't want to respond to me like that just for a sense of professionalism. And that stuck with me forever, and it helped me so much. When you're young and you're starting out in the workplace, you don't necessarily know that you can't be as casual as you are at Goucher, and some of this language that you need to develop in the business world. So again, I just can't stress enough the importance of that. And I will go in now to working with the nonprofit board. It is an awesome thing to be a part of a board. You get so much more valuable experience there than just volunteering. I hate to say it. I've volunteered so much, and I've done front of house work. I've done mentorship, and there is a lot of reward, I should say, in mentoring young children. I shouldn't take away from that. But what I get to do now in a nonprofit board is sort of both ends of that. Because I'm on the associate board, I'm not the person that's doing the heavy-duty fundraising like the regular board. This is a board that's designed for young people who want to get involved with the community. So I get to create the event. I get to work with the main board, which means I get to meet really important people in the community, people who have a lot of significance in the nonprofit and for-profit world. So I get this hands-on role, but I also get this administrative role. So I get to execute the events and see, the children performing at the art auction we do every year for Foundations of Music. I mean, that's great. I could go to any jazz after-school program I want to go to and help with that at any point. So I have that ability, but I also am learning something that's really important to any job that I have in the future. And like Allison said, I am working corporate. I do get a lot of value of what I do on a daily basis, and having a nonprofit heart really helps me to do my job with integrity, but also having an outlet for that is important. And what the job I do now allows me to do is have freedom in the evenings. I do work, maybe 50-hour weeks. I shouldn't say it's a standard 40. It never is, and do work some weekends, but in general, I have a pretty stable life right now, and it allows me to do some of these extracurricular, if you will, activities where I can get involved with the community in a profound way. And now, when you're graduating from college, so for the younger people who are listening to this presentation, you might not be able to join a board right away. One thing I would say is everyone on our board is somehow involved with an organization that can help the organization. So Nikki, who is the president of the board, she runs these venues and can get a space for events. I work with local artists. I can get donations from them. I can get community support from this huge building in downtown Chicago. I have a network of people that I bring to the board, and everyone on the board has something like that they're offering. So don't be discouraged if you apply to be on an associate board, which again is this younger person board that's below the regular board. You will get there eventually. Just consider it when you do have sort of a breadth of experience that would allow you to do this. I can't express how important it's been and how much more I get out of it than all my volunteer experience combined.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Great answer.
Thank you. And I think that was all for your questions here. So, Allison, nice talking to you. I hope England's going well.
Yes, it's fine. It's dark and rainy right now.
Well, it's -10 feeling here in Chicago, so.
Oh, okay. I beat you.
Yeah, my scarf froze to my face this morning, so.
Oh, no.
It's okay. I'm used to it now. I've been through a few
one
winters
more question, actually. For,
sure.
What's your, you lived in Baltimore, I guess, for what, 4 or 5 years after you graduated before moving to Chicago? Less?
3 years.
3 years. What would you say about Baltimore as a sort of a first business landing, your first sort of city in terms of?
I'm so glad you asked that. Yeah, I'm incredibly glad you asked that. I decided to leave Baltimore because I wanted to have a slightly larger city with different types of experiences that Baltimore might not be able to offer me. I can't stress enough how important it was that I started there, because Goucher has such a strong link to the community, is so well respected, especially in the arts world. I'm not sure who listening is specific with arts administration. They might be more focused in peace studies or something like that, but no matter what, Goucher is so involved in the community and so well respected, and your professors are really well networked. And so are the employees. And Baltimore on top of that is a very affordable city, and it is held together by its nonprofits. Not to rag on Baltimore at all, but it has its own shared problems. We all know that. And there's a renaissance going on in Baltimore that's incredible, and this undercurrent that's about social activism and change in a place where change is needed most. So I can't even tell you how many places I volunteered with, how many people I was exposed to that would have taken me years to be exposed to had I been someplace else. And that basically allowed me to jump up to Chicago and pick up where I left off in Baltimore, because I had those experiences. I worked with, several startup dance companies. I just did simple things like front of house for, I worked for a DIY concert space. I did front of house there, and I did front of house for events at the American Visionary Art Museum briefly, although the volunteer management program was falling apart at that point, so I didn't do that very long, but it was still great. And there's just all sorts of opportunities that Baltimore can afford you, because it is not a city that's too populated or too competitive, and it's a city that needs help, for lack of better words. And I love it too. There's some great passion, spirit there, and had I been at this point in my life someplace else, I would never hesitate to move to Baltimore. The only reason I left is, A, I wanted to come to Chicago, and B, at that point in my life, I felt like I wanted to get experience someplace else. But I could have very well stayed in Baltimore and done very well for myself. I just wanted to see what else was out there.
Sure. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you, Allison, for your questions. They were great. Does anyone else have questions, Casey?
I haven't seen any other questions coming in through chat or anyone's hands up, so last chance, speak now or forever hold your peace.
What should we, if we think of, like, if I think of questions later, what address should I email you at, Erin?
Sure. Do you have a pen and paper ready?
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you my work address. I check my work email the most. So it's E as in elephant. Are you ready? E as in elephant, H as in hat, A as in apple, R as in rat, T as in Tom, Z as in zebra, at M as in Matt, M as in Matt, A as in apple, R as in rat, T as in Tom.com.
Okay.
So feel free to email me anytime, and that goes for all of you. And if for some reason you didn't get that, my name and contact information is on the website for my show. You could also email Casey, and I'm sure he could get that to you. I am happy to talk to any of you. If you wanted to schedule a phone call, I'm always happy to do that too. I try to keep this sort of brief, and if there's anything I touched on briefly you would like to have extended information on, I'm happy to do that for you as well.
So yeah, absolutely. Anyone can feel free to reach out to me, and I can try and connect you with Erin, or I can try and answer any questions that you have if it falls within my area of expertise. But I'd like to thank Erin very much for taking the time today to do this webinar for us, and I hope to see everybody at the next one in February. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one, everyone. Stay warm.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.